this computer. Welcome everyone. I'm here with a longtime friend and colleague, Angela Pryder. Back in the days when we used to do yoga together at Samadhi Yoga, when Maria and I owned Samadhi Yoga in Port Coquitlam. Feels like a lifetime ago. And I'm so happy to chat with you today, like a fireside, heart to heart, as mothers, as community members actively involved in our yoga and spiritual community. Angela Pryder is a spiritual teacher and a shamanic teacher as well. You've been in the shamanic medicine path for 25 years, quarter of a century.
Mhm.
Amazing. Our talk today is we're sharing about how we've experienced the impacts not only in our own lives, but what we observe in our communities on how the global health pandemic is affecting vibrationally, emotionally, energetically our communities, our families, from individual in the micro to collectively on the macro. What have your observations been, Angela, within your family and within your community? What do you see?
Yeah. Um, my family's okay. I have a teenager, and we've had to like, just get. I actually think it's been really good for her, to be honest. As I mentioned to you earlier, the night before all this came down, I had a fall, and so I've been walking around with this moon boot on my foot because I broke my foot. I have this little fracture. So I think in some ways that has kind of taken over my family almost more than this whole pandemic because, my daughter's dad and my daughter have just been, helping me. We live in the house of stairs. Like, I think there's like 45 stairs where we live. It's crazy. And so, I think that we've had to just like pull together in a way that we don't normally pull together. And then on another level, just I kind of think it's been good for us in some ways. Generally in my life, since I first experienced somatic therapy myself, which was over 20 years ago, and then around about 16 years ago, I studied somatic therapy and became a somatic practitioner. So I learned a long time ago about like being very, very careful what I ingest into my nervous system. So
Mm,
I'm
yeah,
very selective about my news. With my community, I have quite a large student body who've been working with me for a number of years. Like some a couple of years, but some people I've been walking with on the shamanic path for 8 or 10 years. And so the first thing that I did was just sent them out an email and set up a Zoom because I said, we've been practicing, working in a way with earth medicine for a long time, some of us, and a lot of
mm,
those people that I walk with, they have a number of skills. And I said, we have a responsibility to come together here.
yeah,
We have a responsibility to create ceremony. We have a responsibility to, um, start to really bring these wisdom teachings out into the world. And so that call to action, I think, is the key because for me, service is the antidote to hysteria, you know? And so I've really been doing my best to support them, to support their communities and their families, right?
beautiful. Service is the antidote to hysteria. Yeah, and to fear as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to speak up just a little bit so everyone can hear you a little bit better. But speak a little bit more on that, on what you have observed with the very normal fear responses that are being brought up in our nervous systems. We would be inhuman if we didn't engage in that uncertainty with some initial fear responses.
Yeah. Well, the key is that, as human beings, we just love routine. You know, routine gives us this idea, this illusion that, that we know what we're doing and that we're in this kind of safe little bubble with our lives, right? And, in my shamanic healing practice, and I've been working with people for over 20 years, why do people come to me? They come to me because their internal world has a longing,
Mm.
and their soul is calling them. And they feel this existential restlessness that there's got to be more to life than this, you know? And they've created a nice, safe little bubble that fits into the overculture that we live in, right? The dominant culture that's all about, get a 9 to 5 and go to work and raise your kids this way. And there's this roadmap and this blueprint that gets laid down. And many people, that's an okay place for them, and they're happy and life is good. However, if there is not time and space and energy put into your spirit and your internal world, then that part of us is like a muscle that is not very strong.
Mm-hmm.
So then when that world that we live in, that regular world, our 9 to 5 world, gets rocked, then sometimes we don't have the spiritual resilience in order to be able to go, oh yeah, like, what I've been saying this last week is like, what, I've been practicing being in the present moment for a long time now. And this is all I have. All I have is about this present moment, right here, right now. And I can't really see the future. And that's okay.
Mm.
I'll share something super interesting with you, Eilena, that is, part of the teachings that I try to practice and live by every day. One of my teachers in the Andes, Don Martin, he and I were having a conversation one day, and he kind of had a bit of a giggle at the Western world. He's a farmer, and he's also an amazing, incredible curandero. Like, that medicine lineage is so old and so powerful. And he said to me, you people in the West, you think you're so brave when you stand there and you look to the future and you say, yeah, I'm facing the future and I can't see where I'm going. And he said, you puff out your chest and feel like you're so, big and important. And he said, when you're facing the future, it's so incredibly impractical. Like, why do you do that? We face the past.
Mm.
And I said to him, well, tell me more about that. And he said, yeah, here in the Andes, we face the past and the future is behind us.
Mm.
Because when you
Okay.
face the past, you have all the information. And you take from that information and you use it in the present moment to create your future.
Mm. Beautiful.
It's a bit of a mind,
Mm-hmm.
but
Twist, yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? But when you really think about it, of course, this is true. Like, when you look at our past here, we have lots and lots that we can draw upon. You know,
Mm.
so in this present moment is when, if we're really present here, as long as we're courageous enough to be able to face some of the things that bubble up with the fear and learn from them, then we can use this as an opportunity to create something new.
It reminds me of something we use in our coaching work as well, is that the only person worthwhile to compare ourselves with is ourself, based on what we have overcome and experienced and failed forward in. I use that word in the most positive sense of the word, because it shows our potential. And we look back at certain stages of our life. Well, I didn't think I could do that at the time. And then we did. And then we took a leap of faith and we took a risk and we fell down and then we got back up, fall down 7 times, get up 8. And then there we were. We're still alive. The fact that we're alive is a testament to that very story that your teacher says. Yeah, incredible.
And I think fear is, face it, face everything and whatever. What do they say? Face it. I know they say face in everything and recover, or face everything and renew. You know,
Mm-hmm.
or you're gonna run away, right? When um, I will say this, and this might help anybody who just has some, yeah, the fear response coming up in the nervous system, right? When one of the reasons that sometimes we become so attached to our routines and to our life that is kind of egocentric in a way, not a bad thing, right? We need it to survive. It's okay. But sometimes we get so attached to that we don't go inside of ourselves, and this is why sometimes people have a hard time getting to sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
And so what can happen is when this sort of stillness settles down, we have more time in our hands, we have more
Yeah.
space, these kinds of things. What can start to happen is that we've been holding a lid on can start to bubble up.
Yes.
And, we might try to make sense of it, and the frontal brain will come in to try to protect us. But all the answers are in the body.
Yeah.
And the reptilian brain is just going to say to us, like, don't go there. Like, we're going to go into that fight response or the flight response. Like, don't be looking at that. Don't look there. Don't look there. And that's why I think there's such a movement at the moment. I'm seeing all this stuff come up on social media about mental health, right? And
That which has been hidden for a long time is bubbling to the surface as we are forced to face to sit with it, to sit with it. We're sitting with our monsters under our bed, literally, for many. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so it can be really
Hmm.
frightening, and all of those we have a lot less distraction available to us.
Yes. Yeah.
All those numbing and distracting behaviors we've been doing all this time, they start to like go here, right? They're right in our face, and we can't like dodge them away or,
Yeah.
avoid. Mm.
Yes. Yeah, and so what you're doing, reaching out to your community and giving tools to your people to have them show up as leaders within their circles of influence.
Mm.
And what I'm doing with providing classes online every day and doing similar is kind of standing in the wind of the unknown and looking back behind us, like your teacher says, and remembering that, oof, at that point, I actually moved forward. At that other point where I felt I couldn't move forward, I actually still moved forward. In all those moments of doubt and uncertainty, life kept moving and found a way. And I'm a part of that
Mm.
movement. Like you're a part, I'm a part. Us as specks of dust, as you said earlier, we're part of this dance. this, un,
Every
until we are taking our last breath, we're actually eh, like we're in the pulse of life without whether we actually believe it or not. We actually are.
We are, and quite often in people's lives, it takes something big, something
Yeah.
dies, or there's a big divorce, or you get fired from a job that you've been in for like these big things happen. And what I like to say to people is like, yeah, life serves you up a really big dish, and you have to eat it now.
Hmm.
And you may not like the taste of it. It might be taste like crap.
Yeah.
Not only do you have to eat it, but you have to digest it, right? And so the digesting is the key, because in the digesting is where we learn. In the digesting is where we change. And then once we digest, we're digesting all the feelings about something. And then once you've digested, then you can start to integrate into your life these changes,
Mm.
right? Um, but most of the time, that's what it takes. In shamanism, we call it, getting the call. It's some sort of initiatory experience that you go through, whether it's like a near-death experience or a severe illness, or something that shakes you up.
The
And
call of
really,
the internal warrior.
totally. And all that's really
Mm.
happening is it's just a wake-up call that we're not in charge. It's just a
Yes, I
wake-up
love
call,
that when you say that.
right? Just a wake-up call that's saying, yeah, life is in charge, and life happens to be married to death. And they're the world's oldest married couple, as I like to say. And that's all it is. And all that we're facing right now is like, oh, hello, here's death. And death just comes. And we don't want to be without death, because death teaches us about life. So it's a welcome visit. We need to embrace death, to say, teach me how to have a better and more conscious life that's going to be sweeter and more amazing, where I can contribute.
Mm. Beautiful paradox. There's so much wisdom in integration of opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were saying earlier with the digesting of the shit sandwich, so to speak, the uncomfortable bits, um, there's wisdom on the other side of that. So sometimes when we say, "What's the point of this? Why the suffering?" Because there's wisdom, there's integration on the other side of it. We're not supposed to have a one-sided experience. It's all of it.
All of it. And
Yeah.
this is the thing is we just, we're in the suffering because we want to make a story because we're such an information-based culture. So we're like, why is this happening? What's going on? And blah, 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 and we're up in here. And meantime, like the heart has so much wisdom, and the soul and the body has so much wisdom. And, if we just sit in the present moment and be present to all that life is pouring through us, and just practice that, just practice in this moment. What is life pouring through me? How can I digest this? I'm just going to digest this moment. I'm going to be the attendant to myself in digesting this moment rather than trying to figure it out. This is our culture, right?
As a spiritual teacher, have you ever experienced anything that took you so by surprise that I'd love for our listeners to hear to hear a story that's something that really came through to you that was like, whew, it's
Mhm.
do you have an experience that in your quarter century of guiding people
Yeah,
that pleasantly surprised you?
yeah. Well, there's pleasant surprises.
Yes, and yep,
Yeah,
agreed.
I think well, I'll use something that's most recent because I had been with my daughter's husband, my daughter's father, my husband,
Yep.
for like 25 years. We were just solid, and there was never a second thought about anything, you know. And a couple of years ago, I went on pilgrimage, as I often do. I was in Peru, and I was up on the side of a mountain, and it sounds so cliche, but um, and I thought just before I went into the ceremony there, I thought to myself, be very, very careful what you pray for here. This is a very powerful place, and you're on a journey and you have a lot of intention. Be very careful.
Mm.
So I was like, all right, looking for something neutral here, right? And so I said to Spirit, thank you for helping me to speak my truth with love. And I had no idea of the fallout of that, you know? And so I made my way back down the mountain. And that night I was with my medicine sisters, and we're sitting down to have a tea. And out of my mouth came, I don't want to be married anymore. Just like that. And they all like looked at me and I looked at them, and I was just in complete shock, complete and utter shock. It was insane.
Wow.
So I came back from Peru, and I just said to Spirit, like, show me the way, like, show me the way. I'm not going to burn anything down, and I'm not going to blow anything up, because I mean, that's something that this path has taught me. It's just like you be in this present moment and see how the medicine shows up, and be in this present moment and then see how that unfolds. And when you take one action, 45,000 doors will open. So you don't have to rush anything. So I just waited for guidance, and then I got this message, a very clear message that we needed to move house. And I'm like, well, how can you be like not married and moving house within, such a short, like, it was crazy. But
Wow.
I trusted. And I had been putting this idea out to my husband for, I don't know, probably 10 years. And, he takes his time about things. And anyway, so I said, I think it's time to move house. And he said, yeah, I agree, for the first time in 10 years. And so we planned that the following summer, this was the spring, the following summer we would move. So 3 days later, we were dropping my daughter off at a party, and we were driving down a street where we used to live. And I said, God, it'd be so great to live back in this old neighborhood. I don't think that we can afford it. And he said, hey, you never know. And we came around the corner, and there was an open house sign. We came into this house, and we had bought and sold within 17 days. And we were living in this house. And I'm like, I know, but I still don't want to be married. Like, it was crazy. And then 3 months later, my husband at the time said to me, you're not happy. And then so I just went into myself in this moment, as I've learned to do, in this moment, tell me. And Spirit said to me, yeah, now. And so I said to him, no, I'm not. And then we started on this process of like intense and horrible grief. And he and I both go to ceremony with a teacher of mine. And he started to, my husband at the time started to come to the ceremony with me. And we just held hands and walked through that grief.
Wow.
And somehow, you know, got our daughter well and got our family well. And we just made a decision that, you know, we weren't going to rob our daughter of a family, and we were going to do this as consciously as we can. And so we've been on this path of what's called conscious uncoupling now for about 2 years. And we still meet on Tuesday morning and do our book study together. But the house that we bought, this is the thing that's so interesting, it has a little cottage on the property. And so we made a decision when we were in marriage therapy that I would move into that cottage because it's 10 steps away from the house. And this would be the routine, and this is how we would do things. And so we have this completely unconventional setup where I live in the cottage, but my office is here in the house.
Yes.
And the dog is intact, and my daughter's intact, and we have family movie night, and we have breakfast together every day. And yet we're not married. And that process has taught me the power of being in the present moment. You know, and, you know, I don't know, if we didn't have our daughter, I don't know how we would have approached that, you know? But because divorce in our culture, I mean, there's a divorce train, there's a roadmap that you follow, and that's how you do it.
Yes.
And there was a day where I thought to myself, oh my God, I can't even talk to him.
We have that, married or not.
And, you know, I was out walking the dog and turned my face to the sun, and I just asked, you know, in the shamanic path, we say we ask the medicine, and I asked the medicine, tell me what to do. And the medicine said, you need to bring him to ceremony, like as much as possible. I was like, I don't want to bring him to ceremony. So I walked back in the house and I said, would you like to come to ceremony? And he said, yeah, I will. And that, you know, and because of that, you know, he has had so much healing, you know, and then
Yes.
our family gets healing, and then everybody gets healing. This is how it works.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you have to be in the present moment. You know, this is life. And that was in, you know, my whole life, in my adult life, that has been the biggest shit sandwich. And it's just been one bite at a time, and then digest that bite, and then integrate that into life, and then on to the next bite, and then digest that, and then integrate that. And I had no idea that was going to happen, you know? So,
Wow.
yeah. And people go through this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So.
Incredibly inspiring as an example of walking the path of integration with pleasure and pain, discomfort and comfort. You know, that's truly walking the path of integration of the duality in our lives. It's a really, thank you for sharing that. I think it's an example of how we can look at our own lives and reflect on that and see where we can do similar with a current challenge.
Oh,
whatever it may be. There's all, it's not just the collective one that we're experiencing, but the incongruencies in our own lives where we experience tension, and dancing that tension sweet spot that, well, this is the tightrope of my life.
mm,
This is the knife's edge of my life.
oh,
And how do I still live fully, breathe fully, embody fully, feel alive fully at my knife's edge?
totally right.
Wow.
It's that, it's that growth, the edge of growth, right?
Mm. Oh.
You know, it's interesting because I always think of, in life, we're really just walking on this double edged sword, right? And on one side of that sword is rejection. And on the other side of that sword is seduction, right? And the rejection might be that, um, you know, I, I think I need to change my career. But I've been in this job and I've got the golden handcuffs. And if I
Mm.
reject that job, what, what's going to happen? You know? Or the other side is seduction, where it's just like, I'm not really happy here, but you know,
Security.
yeah, got some nice
Yeah.
RSPs going on here, and I got a good retirement package and good extended health. And meanwhile, like it's the festering in the soul of like feeling unfulfilled. It's just we sacrifice our soul's well-being
Mm.
for that comfort, you know?
Well, we have a feeling or a belief that the comfort will prevent fear and prevent lack of security.
Right.
Yeah. And that, again, it's such a human, understandable human experience. We're wired to look for security, for the warmth of the fire of the communal campfire. We're wired to go there. So it's if we can love ourselves in our humanness for wanting comfort, at the same time loving ourselves for taking those moments in life where we do take the leap of faith, we do take the risk, and we do push ourselves uh, really into, that's where potential lies, right at that sweet spot where you realize to be careful what you pray for, Angela, be careful what you speak
Yeah,
out. And then boom,
I know, right?
it emerged.
Well,
Yeah.
I think in these times, this is the beauty of where we're at. I really feel at this time is that we have been conditioned to go external, right? So we look outside of ourselves for help. We look outside of ourselves for, um, distraction or comfort or answers. I mean, any time people have a conversation these days, what do they say? Oh, let's look it up on Google, you know? And I wonder if, in a way, what this has done is drawn us away from trusting ourselves,
Mm.
just trusting. And this is I think, the key with any kind of spiritual practice, whether it be, a shamanic medicine path or meditation, yoga, all of those things,
Any personal spiritual practice, whatever it may be. Yeah.
whatever it is, your prayer, your church, your,
Mhm.
whatever that is learning to trust ourselves and trust that connection. I just did a little live online circle last Sunday night where I was connecting people with a spirit animal,
Mm.
and I said to them, I know that you will all be tempted after this to get online and Google, what does this spirit animal mean? Or pull out your books or pull out your cards and go outside of yourself. But the medicine of the animals is so much bigger than that. And what we need to learn to do is to trust, if we go inside and into ourselves and into our heart and into the present moment and tune in to that medicine of that species, of that animal, that we will receive exactly the message that we are meant to receive.
Mm.
And it's having that discovery and trusting ourselves with that, I think, is more about an experience than information,
Yes,
you know? Because information you can share with everybody, but your experience is just yours. It's only yours, you know?
that's true.
So I think this is why at this time it's key that we tune in to our spiritual practices, you know?
I think this is also why people often experience overwhelm with information because um, in terms of their own frequency, there's an inability to digest that information. It is part of what you say, tempting. It's very tempting to subordinate to information and say, "This will be my savior." It's like looking to an authority figure or someone that someone or something that we consider to be greater than ourselves. And this is a paradox that we live in because, after all, we were helpless as children. We relied on our parents. We relied on authorities to keep us safe. The human animal is the longest at home. Some my eldest jokes that he'll be with me till his 30s, and a part of me is like, oh goody, but we joke about it. The attachment is for so long, right? Yeah. But that being said, as you speak of the wisdom somatically in the body, is that when you meet yourself exactly where you're at, you will match things around you that give you the right information at the right time with just the right amount of push that is not overwhelming.
Totally. And it's not some like magical, you know,
Yeah.
synchronicity. This is just when you're attuned and you're present. It's always there, you know, in every moment. A few years ago, I was on pilgrimage in Ireland, and it was one of those very, Irish blowy days. It's very dramatic out there, big rolling gray, clouds and the sideways wind. And I was on the West Coast and the green rolling hills, right? The whole thing was all really cool. And I was really having a moment of like my own pain and my own, healing moment. And and I said this prayer and I said, Spirit, help me. It's so dramatic. Help me. And Spirit said to me, why are you always asking for help? It's like you think that it's not here. To change the prayer from saying help,
Wow.
right?
It's like you're saying it's not here.
Yeah,
Powerful.
yeah. And then I received this message. It's like, this is your new prayer. Help me to open my ears and my eyes so that in this moment, I am able to receive what is present, because help is always present in every moment.
Mm.
And change my life. So whenever I catch myself doing, help me, I'm like, no, no, no. In this moment, help me to open my ears and my eyes and my heart to receive what is present in this moment.
Angela, I want to offer something here because I work with a lot of clients who have experienced deep trauma in their past. And when I think of, when I feel into a certain innocence of a body experiencing trauma, and that cry for help in that moment is it's like the chasm, the earthquake. When an earthquake opens up the earth, suddenly something cracks inside of us where it's like, boom, we go deep into uh, trying to find something safe within ourselves in that moment of experiencing a trauma. And I'd love to hear your perspective on what I've seen working with people is when they go there, they actually see how deep their resources are. They won't actually ever feel that until the trauma opened that crack up within them. And so, and in that moment, you might not feel it. You might dissociate, you might pull away just to keep yourself safe, totally understandable, normal human responses. But when as we get older and we have the chance to reflect and really make sense of our past
Mm.
and seeing like, wow, look at how much was opened up in me for
Mm.
me to feel into,
Mm.
like, just the path of empathy opens up too. The ability to feel becomes so deep sea diving. What's on the other side of that in terms of wisdom? What
Mm.
do you see there as a spiritual teacher?
Mm. Well, you
And I
know,
think it speaks to something there that's there for all of us collectively at this time,
for
in
sure,
this time of uncertainty. Yeah.
totally. Um, you know, in I was trained in self-regulation therapy, which is very similar to somatic experiencing. And so we would say that the two ingredients that are missing in trauma are time and choice. No time, no choice. No time, no choice. So sometimes when we are go into a deep well of activation, so that the reptilian brain is just fully activated and the frontal cortex is not even online. Even when I'm sitting with clients and we're doing that work and I can see that level of activation, you know, um, the key always in those moments is to interrupt. You want to just interrupt whatever you can do to interrupt. And so the interruption can just be, well, the beautiful, here we come back, is this moment. You know, in this moment, if all I can do is reorient myself, just orient myself to what is happening when I look around the room in this moment,
Mm.
the carpet. And what I often say to clients, and they think that I'm just being like therapeutic when I say to them, just give yourself some time, take your time, take all the time you need. There's all the time in the world. What I'm telling their reptilian brain and their nervous system is, oh, there's time here in this, that all I'm saying is in this moment you can inject this resource of time into that place of activation. In this moment there's time, just take some time, give yourself time. And I mean, that's a loaded subject in our culture, right?
Mm.
Time factor, because everybody's always in a hurry, gotta go, 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 go. But in this moment I have time and I have choice. And I made this Instagram post this morning that was kind of controversial about, like, how I woke up this morning and I said this prayer of, like, please protect those who are vulnerable, and please protect in particular those vulnerable countries that don't have the same health care that we have. I have a girlfriend who lives in Burkina Faso. They don't have what we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, but please don't bring us a cure too soon,
Mm.
you know, because what will happen is we'll all go back to normal. Everyone will be like, oh, thank God, that's over. Okay, away we go, back to normal, you know, back to normal of, like, going about my life and having this well of feeling like I don't have any purpose. Back to normal. It's like, no, I prayed. I said, please help us to stay in this discomfort a bit longer. Please help us to stay in the discomfort and maybe become comfortable with, having less distracting. Please help us to, stay in this discomfort and maybe become a little bit more comfortable with having more time in our hands, or slowing down, or not numb. Or, like, let's just stay in this discomfort a bit longer, you know?
Mm.
And that was my prayer. Like, I don't want this. I don't want people to die, right? Obviously. And yeah, I know that the economy is blown to shit, and all those kinds of things. But I don't. We need this. This is a gift, as uncomfortable and horrible as it is.
Yep. There's a collective understanding that in every crisis there's an opportunity, and you see how people are responding either by coming into providing value, so tapping in within the power that they feel connected to, providing value from that, or going into panic and fear response. So that goes back to your choice. Really is, yeah, we do. That's the choice that we do have. So in closing, what would you what would you like to leave us with? What's a powerful choice that's available within the medicine path? How do
Yeah.
you help people to have them make that internal choice?
Well, I think that, yeah, to become comfortable with the discomfort, of
Mm,
going to your heart, because in our heart there's empathy. It's easy for me as, um, as a white woman sitting in my house, who's not terribly horribly impacted by this yet, to say, you know, get comfortable with that. But I'm not, you know, maybe a single mom with 3 kids, and like, right,
yep. Hmm.
But I think if we could all find a place, to be in the present moment, and go down, into our hearts, and maybe in there we can discover maybe how we can help. How can I be of service? How might I be able to help? And to go into that uncomfortable place of maybe reaching out and taking some action and helping some people, because like I said, like, service is the antidote to fear, and neuroses and all those kinds of things. So being present with our own discomfort, if we can go within, then we can find something that maybe we can do to help others.
So for the haves, they can share with the have-nots and experience the discomfort of letting go of all that they've amassed. And the have-nots can get comfortable with their discomfort of asking
Yeah,
for help.
yeah,
And this is the, and I just say have and have-nots as a kind of an example. It's not really
yeah.
like that, but it's we're we're being called to face our discomfort and ask for help or give help outside of our norms. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Angela. Big love.
Yeah, we love you too.